MovieWeb.com.
Can you sort of take me through the visual process of this movie, how you guys went from the original TV show to what we see on screen now?
Well, what I know is, and this was really the inspiration for what we did visually, because I was an original viewer of that show, it's not fair to now go back and sort of look at your DVDs or watch the marathons and as an adult look at the production design of that show. You have to look at it through the eyes of a 10-year-old. And when I was 10 or 11 watching this on Saturday mornings, the world seemed infinite. The dinosaurs seemed textured and real. It was a really great world. And so what I chose to do was not sort of kind of comment on how the show was originally done and get kind of kitschy and do our stop motion dinosaurs that would be fun as a sketch but not for a movie. I thought let's bring that sort of ethos of an old-fashioned stage show, because I mean the original television show was all shot on soundstage. Let's still try to do as much of that as possible, but I want the world to feel as expansive as I remember it. And that's what we did. So Bo Welch is genius, the production designer, and I set about trying to do a little bit of what they did in the original show. The original show, Altrusia, this kind of land of the lost, it's not really Earth, it's like an alternate version of Earth. And so what we did was we mashed together elements that exist on Earth, but in really unusual ways. And we kind of went from there.
Now, I know that you're a fan of the show from when you were a little kid.
Sure.
And I'm the same way, but in my mind, the show's so ingrained in my mind that when I see this new incarnation, there's almost this incestual relationship between Rick and Holly. And I'm wondering, was that something you were aware of when you were shooting it? I mean, were you intentionally trying to get those emotions out of the little kids that were kind of shocked and terrorized by the show?
I think the idea in obviously having both Holly and Will become adults and so take them out of the language of being Marshall's kids, at that point, we thought, especially here's this woman who's suddenly like this doctoral student coming from Cambridge. She couldn't be as far from an 11-year-old with pigtails as you can imagine. So we didn't so much as plan for any sort of shock in terms of any kind of incestuous undertone. We just thought we're taking Rick Marshall as we understood him, and then we've even laid more detail on him. I never really knew what the dad did. He had kind of a uniform on, but I didn't know if he was a park ranger or a custodian, or I never quite knew. I just knew he was in a raft with his kids. Like, why? So we obviously gave Rick Marshall a very specific role, and then we just thought if he's with two other adults, then we're going to create for ourselves a new language. So we didn't get too caught up with that.
In watching the old show, you really see this whole other dialogue going on in Rick's head.
Yeah.
And you sort of bring that out in this film. I'm wondering, was that a lot of fun for you to be able to sort of expunge some of the thoughts you thought were going on in this guy's head the whole time he's going through this?
Oh yeah, I mean there were conscious and unconscious carry forwards from the original show, some of which again were very much by design, and there are other moments where the writers were also fans. We just realized that, I think we're doing that. We're kind of giving voice to some of the questions, or pointing up some of the fantastic absurdities. In the pilot of the original show, Rick Marshall says to young Chaka, he says, now, Chaka, let's look at that ankle. Now, bear in mind, Chaka, although I'm a doctor, I'm not a licensed physician. He's talking to this, ape boy. And we just thought, those are the moments you have to preserve and just put right back out there because they're fantastic.
You ever get tired of being wrong? I do. I really do. We don't get fooled again. Don't get fooled again.
I wanted to do that since I first met you.
You mean we could have been doing this the whole time? I'm feeling weak. Really bushwhacked.
I gotta sleep it.
It's all right.
He's incapable of rapid course correction. Try running a serpentine pattern. Serpentine! No! Serpentine!